All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Skystalker. Yeah, this is another one of the Transformers Prime Predacon Dragonbot things, and yeah, this is not a great figure, honestly. I only have three of these Predacons. I mean, I guess I also do have the like second Voyager Predaking, but I kind of keep that one separately because I use that as my Onyx Prime in my collection. So yeah, this is we took a look at Ripclaw and Grimwing a while ago, and this is the third one that I have, Skystalker, and I would say by a pretty significant margin, he's the worst one that I have. There were other Predacons in that series that I never bothered picking up, like Vertebrake, I think his name is. The one that has like the weird sort of like hunchback, the red one, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, of the ones that I have, Skystalker is pretty significantly the worst. He's got some neat stuff going on, but he's ultimately just kind of an uninspired figure that doesn't quite hold up anymore. But yeah, he looks okay in his dragon mode. Definitely some weird proportions, but I think it mostly comes across. It's definitely like, I feel like the Transformers Prime Predacons, they kind of suffered from the fact that like most of them just do the legs become the legs, arms become the arms thing, which is a little bit, uninspiring and uninteresting for like a dragon mode transformation. Like it can be fine, but they don't have as many neat tricks in their transformations, especially him. But in terms of articulation in this mode, the head, it can kind of like bob up and down here on that joint, which will be a transformation joint. It can also swivel, and the mouth can open. Now the face, the robot mode face, is in here, but thankfully it's on its own separate joint, so you can open the mouth without seeing the face at all, which is nice. The front legs here, they can kind of come up and down here on these wing things, but they're on these like armatures that go into the wings, but they kind of mess with the wings, so I usually leave them down. But ball joints here at the shoulder, then a swivel here at the, I guess, thigh in this mode, which is unfortunately one joint that's become really loose on mine, is this one specifically. It definitely, like when you're putting him down, it kind of wants to like, just like twist around via gravity. But and then the foot here is on a ball joint. Oh, and there's also a hinge at the knee there. And then for the back legs, these will just be the robot mode legs. So ball joint at the hip, and then yeah, the ball joint comes off. There is a thigh swivel here, like you can see this little cup here, but it's it doesn't get a ton more range. And then obviously this knee is on a hinge, this knee is on a hinge, and then the foot is on a hinge as well. The tail can kind of bend up and down, but you really do want it down so it kind of holds these parts separated. There's a waist swivel, and then the wings, they can rotate around like this. Again, this like slot here kind of bumps into the stalks that the arms are on sometimes, but you can move it around. And then there's a swivel here and a swivel here. So unfortunately you can't, again, this is another one that you can't really get it in like a flying pose because you can't actually have the wings out to the side. You can only spread them out like this. So it looks fine and well and good enough when it's just like standing on the ground, but you can't actually get this figure in like a flying pose, which is a bit unfortunate. Now he has these big weird weapons on his wings, which are kind of neat, but they're basically like little disc launchers where you put your finger in here and then you push it forward and it will launch out the disc. It just basically is just this little piece on a hinge, and then it kind of pushes the disc out of its slot. Typical stuff. I tend to not really like, it's a neat-ish feature, but I tend to think that the wings just look a little bit better without the circles there. So I personally just leave these in a box off to the side, but that's what it looks like with them or without them. You can have these either open or closed. I think it looks a little bit better without the circles there, but whatever you want to do, you've got that option. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is with the other two Transformers Prime Predacons we've looked at, Ripclaw and Grimwing. And yeah, none of them are like amazing figures, but I still think that Ripclaw is by far the best of the three of them, at least in terms of the ones that I have. Like Grimwing does some interesting things, but at the end of the day is just kind of like really basic and simple. And yeah, so I think fairly decent figure, okay figure, not great. yeah, we got kind of the full spectrum there. And then for another comparison, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for a standard size deluxe comparison for how that works out in Dragon mode. Now, in terms of transformation for this guy, it's, mostly what you'd think it would be. Like, head becomes the head, arms becomes the arms, legs becomes the legs, and the tail just sits off to the side, and the wings just sit off in the front. It doesn't really change shape that much, but does do a few things here. Now, what you want to do, which this is, I think, the one neat part of the transformation, is you actually slide the wings down so they actually lock into the arms like that. So now they can rotate around the arms, which I think is a kind of a neat trick in terms of like sliding these joints together. That's just about the only neat trick in the transformation, but you do that, and then you can take the tail and kind of just double hinge it up like this, so it just kind of sits on the back like that. It doesn't really tab in or anything, just kind of like sits there, just kind of readjust the position of it, but it does allow you to push these two sections together. Now, I can't remember if it was always like this, but these sliders over the years somehow have gotten really like annoyingly tight. It's not really so bad when you're going into robot mode, but going out of robot mode, it's like really difficult to get these separated out again, and you don't really have a good place to grab them, so you just end up like ripping one of the legs off, and you have to just like wiggle it back and forth. You basically just have to take the legs off and then, put your finger on the ball joint and just wiggle these back and forth until one of them separates enough that you can get your finger in there. But I'm not going to bother with it right now, but like that's the one really irritating part about this guy, is going back into dragon mode, is separating those out, and it doesn't even like really ultimately change the shape that much. So if you wanted to, you could just leave the hips closed and just move the tail down like that, and it doesn't change all that much, but it is a transformation step and it is annoying to do, so for whatever that's worth. And then you straighten out the legs, and then what you want to do is actually flip out this piece from the back to actually make a heel, so that he's supposed to have like the full foot, and then also this heel piece is supposed to be his footprint in robot mode. And then for the arms, you just take the little claws here, rotate them around like this, and then rotate this section with the hand around so you can get the claws on the underside of the arm, and then just fold them up like that. Again, wish they like tabbed in or had a very, like a little bit more of a clear place to go. They kind of just sit back here. Like I guess you could have it so they're sitting the other way, and maybe that sits a little bit more contoured. I can't totally remember. Yeah, no, that doesn't really work all that much either. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have it so that they're, palm down on the underside of the arms. At least that's how I've always done it. But it is kind of annoying that they don't have like a locking place or anything. But whatever. But yeah, you just do that on both sides here. And then for the chest section, you want to rotate out the chest so that you have the clearance to open up the dragon mode jaw, and then take the neck and actually accordion it down to make the head sit a little lower. And then you can flip down the robot mode face from the inside of the upper jaw, close this back up, and then you actually unfold the body here a little bit. It's just a tiny bit, but what that also does is it locks the chest in place so the chest can't, like fold back down, which is kind of nice, but ultimately does not change the shape all that much. And there we have Skystalker in his robot mode. And yeah, you kind of have to adjust the wings and have them kind of like going off to the side so that his, center of gravity, like actually, can keep him standing. Because the other thing is, like, with these heels, it means that the feet are a little bit angled backwards, so you kind of have to like angle them extra forward at the other joints, so it's kind of annoying. And again, the ball joints at the hips have really loosened up over time, so it is a little bit irritating in him to stand. Obviously it helps a little bit if you don't have these on, just because like less weight that you're working with. But yeah, that's he looks okay. The head is okay in terms of articulation. It gets a swivels range just because you're having to move the jaw within this section, so it only goes from there to there. You could keep this further down if you want it to be more of a hat. The head is supposed to be like this. It's an okay look, but it's a little bit awkward. The shoulders, just like before, still on ball joints, still has a bicep swivel, elbow bend. The wrist really can't do anything other than like bend in and out a little bit. He does have a waist cut, takes the tail with it, so it looks a little bit awkward in some positions. Hips, ball joints, knee, ankle, pretty much all the same stuff as in dragon mode. So I do think it's kind of a cool look to like have these being able to like go over his shoulders and shoot, whether or not you have the discs in there, to have those as like weapons. I think that's a kind of interesting vibe, but it is a little bit annoying that you kind of can't, just like have the wings kind of folded down and have him be able to like stand just because of how heavy the wings are. I'd probably prefer them up anyway, but I wish that it kind of had that option. I wish that the heel support pieces were a little bit like longer so they could actually, the feet didn't have to be so angled backwards. In terms of other weaponry, he also has, this is like the most pointless weapon. You can take the little tip of his tail off and it can clip over his hand just for a little spiky mitt. Now, if that's not the least intimidating weapon I've ever seen, I don't know what is. It's okay. It's, it kind of just makes for a part that's easy to lose. Thankfully, I haven't lost it, obviously, but I pretty much just leave it on the tail because I don't think it's that, interesting it's not that interesting as a weapon. But yeah, he's okay. In terms of comparisons in this mode, if I can get him to stand here. Just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, and then for another Transformers Prime average size deluxe comparison, here he is with the Wheeljack mold with dead end there. Just so you can see, pretty average size deluxe. He's a little bit tall, especially, depending on how crumpled up the legs are. He can get a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, but that's basically what he stands at. See, it's hard to just rotate him around and keep him standing. It's kind of annoying. And then, God, dropped it in there. Here he is again with Ripclaw and Grimwing. So yeah, that's kind of my little trio of Transformers Prime Predacons. Why aren't you standing? You stand solidly. There we go. So yeah, definitely my least favorite of the three. I mean, I do kind of like the Ice Dragon aesthetic. I do like, the thing that they were doing with a lot of the Transformers Prime figures where they have kind of like the weird mixed plastic marbling effect here. It's not really done that drastically. Like you can see it more on the joint than the rest of it, where he's got some like white plastic mixed in there. But, it's not quite as interesting as the like yellow mixed in with the green on Ripclaw. So yeah, he's okay. I like the dragon mode all right. I think the robot mode is a little bit boring. I think that the transformation in between the two is boring and also frustrating. And yeah, I mean, I think that the wings are kind of interesting, but I don't ultimately like the whole, like disc accessory thing. So, kind of take it or leave it. But yeah, not a great figure, but figured I'd just round out the trio of the ones that I have here. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Deluxe Class Skystalker.